sideways so I could read the words printed on the spine. 6 seconds in Dallas. I felt a rush of adrenaline and my heart began to race as I opened the book's cover and read the subtitle, A Micro-Study of the Kennedy Assassination by Josiah Thompson. Almost everyone in the police department knew that I had been in the Secret Service, but only a few, including Chief Lee, knew that I had actually witnessed the assassination of President John F. Kennedy, and none of them knew how witnessing that event had impacted my life. The fact that I had never seen or even heard of this book came as no surprise to me. In the 50 years since President Kennedy's assassination, I had actively avoided reading any books about the events of November 22nd, 1963. I thanked Chief Lee, accepted the book, and left the office to return to the bicycle auction. As I passed the classroom, I ducked inside and placed the book on a corner table, thinking it would be safe there until after the auction. It wasn't until I was pulling into my driveway later that afternoon that I realized I'd forgotten Chief Lee's gift. I immediately turned around and headed back to the police station. The station was only about 5 minutes from my house, but in the brief amount of time that I was away, someone had already cleaned the classroom and my book was gone. All of the volunteers had left the station, and there were only a couple of officers remaining. Maybe the chief had noticed it, picked it up, and returned it to his office for safekeeping, I hoped. I cannot begin to explain the anxiety I felt that weekend. I tried to keep positive, thinking that the book would have to turn up. The irony of the entire situation was that in all the years since President Kennedy's assassination, I had only read one book about it, The Kennedy Detail by Jerry Blaine and Lisa McCubbin, 2010. Now, I was obsessed with this old, musty book that had come into my hands and that I had almost immediately misplaced. On Monday morning, I returned to the police station. The officer on duty let me in, and I again headed down the hallway toward the chief's office. I did not have an appointment, and when I reached his office, his secretary advised me that the chief was in a meeting. I told her that I only needed a few seconds with him and said that if it was okay, I would wait outside the office in the hallway just in case. While waiting in the hallway, I noticed that Debbie Messing, the recreation specialist for the city of Shaker Heights, was in her office. I wandered over to chat. When she asked me why I was there, I started into my tale of woe. She reached over and picked up a book from her desk and asked, "Is this what you're looking for? I found it in the classroom when I was cleaning up after Saturday's auction. I had no idea where it came from, so I just picked it up and put it on my desk." I could have hugged and kissed Debbie right on the spot. Instead, I thanked her profusely and left the station. Driving home, I was elated. The book was sitting on the passenger seat right there beside me. This was my lucky day. Everything had fallen into place. I had been at the right place at the right time. Somehow, I knew I was meant to have this book. I just felt that somehow it was destined to be in my possession. But why? When I reached home, I immediately went to the bedroom before removing my coat. I cleared some space on the walnut nightstand next to my bed and placed the book on top of the table. I intended to start reading it that very evening, before going to bed. The evening came and went, then another, and another. In fact, about 90 evenings came and went, and the book slowly disappeared under copies of Consumer Reports and American Rifleman. I wanted to read the book, and yet I didn't want to read it. On and on I procrastinated. It had now been over 50 years since President Kennedy's assassination. Come on, Paul, I kept telling myself. The past is history. This is now. But still, I didn't want to read about it. Finally, one night I crawled into bed, settled in, reached over, and picked up 6 Seconds in Dallas. It was March 14th, 2014, 3 months to the day since I received the book from Chief.